Jeff Fuller back with you. Jay Fuller Interviews. Jay Fuller Interviews on Instagram, Twitter, the Facebook group, and on YouTube. Just subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jay Fuller Interviews. For this interview, the past ones, including Doug Gottlieb and David Thibodeau, and the future ones coming up, we certainly enjoy you being a part. Hopefully, this will be turning into a podcast called The Backfire Podcast on Spotify. Joining me now, we have Jackie Nagle. Jackie, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So let's jump to it. Back-to-back national champion, 2017, 2018, Amherst College. What was that experience like for you to cut down those nets?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I mean, we had an amazing group of women all 4 years. We were always, setting the expectation that our goal is to win a national championship. We weren't trying to win a conference. We weren't trying to win just the next game. Our goal every day was to win a national championship. So to be able to cut down the net, not once, but twice with the women that I played with for all 4 years was incredible.
Now I'm just going to set this up for you. I imagine the greatest coach you ever had was that of Carrie Lyons. Can you just talk about that? How the personal development with the Carrie Next Level really helped you and prepared you for that collegiate level?
Yeah, Carrie really made a huge difference in my life, not just on the court, but off the court as well. He always helped me get to my potential by pushing me harder than a lot of the coaches I had. In a way where on the court we would get pretty intense with each other. We'd be pushing each other back and forth, and then we get off the court and hugs and joking around and supporting each other. And he always had my back every step of the way. And you can see that every ounce of my playing in college came a lot from Carrie.
Jackie, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Colchester, Vermont.
So did you play for Colchester?
I did, yep, all the way through high school.
When did you find out that basketball was something you wanted to pursue? Did you play other sports or have different interests when you were younger?
I did. I wanted to play basketball from, like third grade on. I came home with a flyer. My family, my mom, huge basketball family. My mom and dad are huge Kansas Jayhawk fans. And my dad was a basketball player. I grew up, he broke both elbows. He had fat lips, he was a big pickup basketball player. And I always wanted to be like him. And I came home with a flyer when I saw girls basketball in like third grade. And I said, Dad, will you coach me? I want to play. And he coached me all the way. We ended up playing together, until I think he stopped coaching me around the appropriate time, like seventh grade, where it starts to get tough when your parents are coaching still. But that's how I got into it.
And you were blessed with great height, right around 6 feet. Did Vermont coaches always try to put you in the post, or did they allow you to develop ball handling and some guard play as well?
Yeah, my dad always reminded me, don't let anyone, just because you're tall, don't let anyone not let you develop your guard play. And luckily, TJ Sawyer, he's now a coach at UVM, but I grew up playing for him in high school as well. And he would always kind of give me a little bit of a leash. He'd let me shoot, even though I might not have been the one to shoot. And Carrie too. Carrie would always make me do a lot of ball handling and focus on my footwork a lot and being agile and fast and in shape. And that made a big difference into some of the matchups I saw in college as well, being a little bit more agile, a little bit quicker.
So I think you are probably close to the same age as Chelsea Dunham. We're good friends with the
Yes.
Dunhams, and she turned out to be a really good player. And something about Chelsea, and I assume about yourself, she really enjoyed playing basketball. She loved to play, where some kids, they're just athletic, but they don't really enjoy it. Did you love to play the game?
I did love to play the game. I also loved to play the game under Chelsea. Chelsea was, she's going to yell at me for not knowing how much older she was than me. Maybe 3 years. Sorry, Chelsea, if you're younger or older than that. But I got to play against her when I was playing for Carrie. She was technically the older group up, and we would always match up against each other. And she taught me so much in terms of how to guard someone who's really skilled down low, and how to make some plays that I can get around someone who's a little bit bigger than me. So I absolutely loved playing against Chelsea. It was a blast.
So I have to be careful with this assumption, but sometimes in Vermont basketball, whether it's boys or girls, you also want to play in a division that you're not quite suited for, but you just chose Amherst Division III, where not only you made the team, but you played, you won back-to-back championships. Can you just talk about that transition from Vermont high school to that of college, even D3 NCAA?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you play at the level of D3, it varies in terms of intensity. I would say the NESCAC, which is what Amherst is in, is one of the most intense conferences in D3. And I knew what I was getting into from the jump. With Coach Gramacki, he, sets the tone in the beginning that their expectations are high and that we play hard every day and we show up every day. And it's not run like a D3 program. It's run like a Division I program as close as you can get within NCAA rules, which is great. And it's a really great, rigorous way to go through college and finish off your career. I would say it was tough to transition a little bit. The girls are faster. The guards are really agile. And so for a post player, I had to really step my game up. Everyone that I played with through Amherst gave me a run for my money, took all my, they really kicked my butt every day. And I'm really grateful. They brought my level of game up so much. I mean, when you play these girls every day, day in, day out, I mean, you have to rise above it and be able to guard them or you fall off. And so it was a hard transition, but it was worth it.
And so I imagine with these guards are a little bit quicker, it probably gave you even more satisfaction when you got to block their shot. Is that correct?
The rare times I got to block my teammates. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of satisfaction in that.
So there's an article from Amherst talks about you guys rewriting the record books. Could you just talk about the winning streak you guys went on and just what some would say a magical time that was for Amherst women's basketball?
The streak, the infamous streak. Yes. This was something that it's funny. We didn't talk about too much. And like I said before, one of our goals in the top of our season every year was we're making it to the national championship. We're winning a national championship. That's our expectation. And so these streaks, winning at home, that matters a lot to us. We take a lot of pride in all the women that came before us. Because when I came in as a freshman, I didn't know what the streak necessarily meant. It had, started a long time before I started playing at Amherst. And just what it meant to me was having a lot of respect for what we consider our home court, and knowing that is what we are protecting at all costs. And all the women who came before us protected that at all costs. And it was a really great thing to come into. It was a little bit of stressful at times, especially as a freshman, sophomore, to try to meet that level that was set for us. But it was a really fun thing to be a part of, and it was magical. It really was.
All right, Jackie. So I had the good fortune of interviewing Doug Gottlieb last week, and he was fun. He was number 44 when he played at Oklahoma.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But number 32, no. Was that your number in high school? And why did you pick number 32?
Yeah. So number 32, I was 13 growing up, and then I got into high school and they didn't have a 13, and I had to make a decision. And 32 to me stuck out. It just was something that my mom and I had kind of talked through a little bit. A couple players we really liked that were 32, and it stuck. And as soon as I picked it for high school, I didn't feel like I could switch back to 13 in college. I just felt like 32 was now my thing, and was able, luckily, to hop into Amherst and get that jersey.
All right. So you mentioned your dad coaching you before. Was your dad one that you would sit down and watch basketball games with, whether it's on TV or live, or was that something where he kind of kept his distance so you could just become your own player and not just in his shadow?
My dad struck the perfect balance, I think. There's no watching basketball alone in my house. If basketball's on, you're watching it, and everyone's watching it. Everyone's screaming at the TV, particularly my dad and my mom. So we definitely watched and loved watching together. And oftentimes it involved my dad hoarding the remote, pausing. Jack, did you see this play? Did you see his footwork? Did you see that? And that was, it was exciting for me because I would get to learn a lot and be like, yeah, dad, whatever. And he'd back off and then, come back. My dad also would, we got on each other a lot because he obviously wanted to see me do well because he knew how much I cared about the sport, and he loves the sport. So we get into it sometimes after practice or after games. I think one time I told him he couldn't yell as loud at me because he was like, Jacqueline, after plays. And, that's not something I meant like stop. It was more, in the heat of the moment. And he wrote me a letter and put it in my basketball bag for my next game. And that's kind of how, there was so much respect there mutually that he'd give me my space when I needed it, but he'd also push on me when I needed it. And we'd meet in the middle every now and then. And, really drove me to love the game more and play harder and really appreciate everything that we were able to bond with through basketball.
So he would use your full name, huh? He would say Jacqueline.
Oh.
And call it out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same in the house, off the court. If I'm in trouble, it's Jacqueline. If I miss a layup wide open, it's Jacqueline. There's no Jax. There's no Jack. It's Jacqueline.
Hey, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister, Joanna.
So did she play basketball?
She did not. No, she was our hockey star. She played club at UVM. She took it on pretty late in the game. I think she was like in 8th grade or something. And she really did great. She still plays to this day. So hockey is another sport in our house that if it's on, it's on. Everyone's watching. And my dad plays that too. And they bond over that and play together. So big sports family, winter sports.
So because she was so successful, did you want to do something different than her?
I don't know. I think Joe and I kind of found our own paths pretty young. Like when I started playing basketball, she had no real interest in playing basketball. And yeah, I don't think we really influenced each other too much early on. I think it was really inspiring to me, her love of the game, because club takes a whole other level of dedication. You're not necessarily doing it for some kind of like NCAA label or anything like that. You're really truly doing it for the love of the game and competition and team and everything like that. And that really drove me to appreciate the opportunity to play sports in college and honor that.
And so one of your national championship games was at Calvin College in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I believe it was against another New England school. And you didn't have the fan support that the gym capacity would handle or would hold. Can you just talk about what students or players might be facing with no fans coming this winter?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's an entirely different environment. It's really easy to feed off of it. And you're taught, don't listen to the crowd your whole career. But the crowd has that element to it that makes the game really exciting. It's the difference between playing, scrimmaging in practice to actually the real deal when you get the reactions and everything like that. So I think it's going to be really hard mentally to keep that level of intensity that is game day when there's not that environment, that atmosphere. I think it's going to take a level of mental toughness that, we haven't had to have before. Naturally, you're fueled by that fan energy. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in the post-COVID, or I guess we're still in the COVID era.
Now, if you were a coach, how would you instruct your players to really be self-motivated or generate that energy within themselves, or how to Carrie or other coaches develop you to have that work ethic, whether somebody was watching or they weren't?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Carrie for this one. So Carrie instilled this rule in practice where even in practice that you had to be talking every 5 seconds. So if it were quiet for longer than 5 seconds, you're running, you're punished, you're done. And what that did for me and the team when I was playing for Carrie was it really motivated everyone. You're either cheering someone on or you're helping someone get to where they need to be on defense, or you're, shouting out where someone's setting a screen. You're just communicating so much more, and it keeps people, that energy you can almost self-produce if everyone on the team is really in it and really communicating. And I took that on to college. I remember like a couple of my teammates when I first came in were like, shut up. Like, why are you talking so much? Because on defense, especially, I was every couple seconds shouting out something, communicating something. And I think that if I were a coach, that's something I would absolutely be starting if I hadn't already started it now, because that energy you feed off each other. And you have each other's back, even when there's no fans, to really be the cheering, the hoot and the holler and all that stuff. It's really coming from inside.
Yeah, that's really good. Why I froze earlier, Doug Gottlieb went to Oklahoma State. I was thinking Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I just messed that up. However, can you talk about having those skills as a freshman, as a sophomore, was that hard for you to fit in with the upperclassmen when you went to Amherst?
No, God, no. Our team, from the minute I got there, had this atmosphere that was just so supportive. I remember seniors and juniors on my team just lifting freshmen up at any point they could, freshmen, sophomores, whoever's on there. And it was never really this atmosphere that was difficult to fit in on, which I think is rare. It's very competitive, especially when you come in with, I had a big class and we were pretty talented when we came in. And I think it's pretty easy for upperclassmen to fall into kind of an, worried about positions and whatnot, but we never really felt that. We were always kind of supportive on and off the court, there for each other on and off the court, and creating a pretty inclusive atmosphere regardless of your experience level.
Yeah, that's probably why you girls were so successful as well. Can you just share, besides family or coaches, who's somebody that really made an impact in your life? Maybe an upperclassman, maybe somebody that was younger, or a teacher that kind of mentored you, not the basketball part, but more just maturing as a collegian and just navigating your way being a student athlete?
That's a great question. If I had to say someone who really mentored me in terms of outside of basketball, right? Not necessarily like a coach or anything like that. That's a great question. I would say a lot of my friends and former teammates played a big role in inspiring me. Jackie Sorter, who I played with, she was a year older than me. She was always kind of my inspiration. She was someone who on the court was always level-headed. She battled through injuries. She battled through, difficult games, some adversity, and she always kept a level head. She always was there for the team, and playing directly under her. I was a year younger than her, and we actually grew up together too. She was always kind of my inspiration. She went on to play at RPI in college, and she played under TJ. She played with Carrie, and she was really a big inspiration for me.
And so that question leads into this, where I met your mom, WVMT. I don't know if I can even, a morning radio show where she used to be. Met your mom, and she just diversified. She was on radio. She did some stand-up. She did a ton of things. Your mom is just so talented, and people love her and all that. How important is it for you to learn to diversify your interests, or were you so laser focused on basketball, it's been difficult without basketball in your repertoire?
Yeah, I would say my mom has always inspired me in that way. She's just the jack of all trades between comedy, catering, cooking, all of that stuff that she's just incredibly good at and people know and love her for. It's always really inspired me to get involved in other things. I do a lot of musical things. My dad is a guitar player, so we sing a lot together. We listen to a lot of music, share a lot of music. Trying to get into other sports too, just for fun. I know my team would always play like kickball or softball, intramural, really just broadening your palette for random things that are entertaining, just to keep it interesting. I think especially at the college level, it's difficult to get into other things because your time is really consumed by, you're on the court, you're in the lab, you're in class, you're studying, whatever. But it was crucial for me to stay a little sane by doing some other things, which was a blast.
So Jackie, a couple questions and we'll get you out of here. Jackie Nagle, making some time, back-to-back national champion. Pretty cool stuff. But so your mom, when she was preparing for stand-up, were you guys like the guinea pigs? That would be the toughest audience is your children. But did she try jokes on you and jokes that you thought were terrible, but the audience, the crowd really enjoyed?
Oh gosh. So I was pretty young when she was officially doing stand-up comedy. And I remember she would have notes everywhere with all this material. And it's funny, I always found my mom hilarious. So I've never actually had a joke of hers that I haven't either laughed seriously or laughed sarcastically at. She's just a funny person. But I remember, I think my sister and I were maybe 14 and 15 when she did one of her big shows downtown, and we found the VCR of it during a Christmas, one Christmas, and we ended up watching it. And I remember just thinking, one, how is she up there doing that? I admire that so much. Two, she's hilarious. Like, how is she not, how is she not doing this more? And I always push her too. I'm always like, you got to get back out there. You would kill. You got to get up. Hopefully we can get her to do that. Maybe we'll get her on here and try out some material.
Yeah, I asked her to come on, and she's like, no, you need to interview my daughter. So I don't know if she's just humble or what, but we'll work on her. So, Jackie, if you were cast in a feature film, would you want to play the hero or the villain?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's pros and cons to both. If you're the hero, you kind of got to stick to the script a little bit more, but you got some more creativity if you're the villain, You can kind of cause a little bit of trouble. You'll end up getting busted, but like you'll have your fun. I think I would be the villain.
Yeah, I agree. It's a fictional movie. That's the part I want. So I stole this question from Hernando Planos. He does a lot of basketball stuff, sports choreography. He's a great guy, but he always asks those he interviews, if or when there's a feature film about your life, who do you want to play you in that role?
All right. I know this is bizarre, but I would like Will Ferrell to play me. I really, I love him. I think he's hysterical, and I just think he would make my life pretty comical. So I'd love to see him play me.
Well, there you go. I always say The Rock. I've added to this question. Not that I look like The Rock, but I just love The Rock. I think he's awesome. Who would you want to play the love interest for Will Ferrell?
Oh, God.
For me, I say Halle Berry. I think Halle Berry would be great. My wife understands, Halle Berry. I have a thing for her. So what about you? Who would play the love interest for Will Ferrell?
Let's see here. The love interest for Will Ferrell. Oh, who's that guy who plays Thor? What's his name?
Hemsworth?
Yes, him.
That guy?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Hey, Jackie, thank you so much for making the time. And if people want to follow, we have Instagram at jnags13. But are you still playing pickup? Do you coach or run clinics or help kids with their game? What are you doing now regarding basketball?
Yeah, so I actually just moved from New York City, so I was there for 2 years. I haven't been back. I came back after COVID, so I haven't been able to play since I moved back. But I do play. I play with Carrie in some men's leagues, and my old coach TJ too. So I'll probably get back to that as soon as we can get back on the court.
Oh, definitely. Hey, Jackie, thanks so much. It's always fun. Tell your parents I said hi, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Again, that's Jackie Nagle, and she back-to-back NCAA championships, 2017, 2018. The Backfire Podcast is where you can subscribe on Spotify, the Backfire Podcast. All things interviews, Jay Fuller Interviews, Instagram, YouTube, the Facebook group, and Twitter. With that, we're out. We'll talk to you again soon. Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk. We have Rex Walters coming on soon. Catch you all later.